I do have to re-thread my needle to do the other side. It becomes quite frayed here, so if I just trim a tiny amount off and give it like a clean cut, then I have a less frayed end of my conductive thread. So hopefully I can thread this a little bit easier. There we go. And then the good news is the knot, when you make a knot with this stuff, it's pretty thick, so it makes a nice knot pretty quickly. So I usually do one knot, ow, just poked myself, and then do another knot on top of the last knot to make it thick, a nice thick knot. So now I'm going to anchor the negative side, do the running stitch up, and anchor the negative side of the LED. And again, as I begin to anchor this, remember you're going to need to trim that tail into about 1/4 inch. And you want to have a really secure knot. You don't want to have to do this stuff over and over again. But if you do mess up, that's what you have to do. Just do it over again. So, just at the point where I am going to anchor this negative side of the LED light, and so you can see I've done my running stitch with the conductive thread. The spaces between the stitches are approximately the size of the stitch. They're not too big. And then I'm going to come up through that hole and anchor this 3, 4, 5 times, maybe. Probably not more than that. And you can see it's all kind of together there. All these little conductive threads are sort of lined up together there. So then onto the back, and I'm going to show you the knot again. So I'm right next, and I'm going to try to knot it over like on this side, because all of this cannot touch, these cannot touch, and it's these little frayed pieces that might end up creating a problem. So I'm going to try to tie the knot over on this side. So I'm going to put about halfway through the fibers here, right next to the string. And then I'm going to wrap this part 1, 2, 3 times, push it through, and then see if I can get that knot. I'm going to use my finger to slide the knot down. Got a little loop there that I don't like. So if you ever run into a situation where you've done something and you want to take it out, the first thing I do is I take the needle off the thread, and then I like to try to use the needle to undo the knot that I put in here. Doing this with the conductive thread, you could cause it to fray by picking at it with the needle. So just be aware of that. And it's a bit tedious here what I'm doing, trying to get that knot out, but it's probably better than taking the whole thing out and trying to redo it all. So I managed to get that knot out. Just notice how kinked that is. I mean, conductive thread, it's made out of metal, and so it does behave a bit like wire as you're using it, and it can kind of kink up like that. So sometimes, if there's a major mistake, you might want to just take everything out and start again with a fresh piece if that thread is super duper kinked up. It could be helpful. I'm going to proceed forward. I think I can get this knot under control without taking out my whole running stitch. Okay, there I've got my needle threaded. I'll try again. It's going to be trickier once it's kind of kinked up like that. So I'm going to put this through some of the fibers. You know, if you don't put it through enough fibers, it's probably not going to work real well. Wrap that around 3 times. And I'm going to pull it through very carefully because it is so kinked up that I want to make sure I don't make it worse as I pull it through. So I'm kind of holding this loop. So now I've got this anchored. I've got my knots tied. I have not put the glue on the ends of the knots yet. But see how I'm trying to fold these back? These aren't going to be able to touch the circuitry, these little tails. Okay, but before we worry about the glue, I'm going to insert the battery and see if my circuit works. Okay, so here's the test to see if this will light up. Now there is an on-off switch. I'm going to turn it off. And I'm going to look at my battery. There's a plus side here. So I'm going to stick the plus side in on the plus side like that. Oh, there's something wrong with the holder. Oh, might be okay. All right, so I've got everything on here, except I managed to break this, but it does work. Hooray! It's just when I lift this up, I lose the contact. You can see I broke this part. This is not supposed to be a switch. Even though it's functioning like a switch right now, it's not supposed to. This is the switch that we should be using. So we'll pretend that I didn't break that. And you can see using this switch, it can go on and off. So now that I know that the circuitry works, now I can do the glue on the back here. So I've got some Elmer's glue, and basically what I need to do now is put some glue down on these tails. They're frayed tails, so I'm going to go like kind of cover it with some glue. That seemed like a lot of glue. It was a lot of glue. I'm going to put a little glue on that one. And this one. And I'm just going to take my finger or something, toothpick would probably work, and just try to flatten them. So the glue will kind of hold the frayed parts together. It may not exactly glue things to stay flat. I wouldn't overdo it. One thing that I don't care for is to see the glue on this side. That one has way too much glue right there. You can't see it too bad, but it will soak through. So the glue can soak through your fabric, so just be careful of that. This is a practice one, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But again, as long as it lights up.